So a couple months ago I was thinking to myself, what would be something cool I can try for a video? And then it hit me. The marathon. A race where thousands of people embark on a 42-kilometer journey together with just one goal. Reaching the finish line. And I wanted to try it. But there's one problem. This is me. A small, scrawny, weak guy that barely leaves the house, whose only exercise is going from his PC to the toilet and back. So yeah, it was gonna be quite the challenge. So to lock myself in, I signed up for the next marathon near me, which would give me a deadline of 148 days. Tickets are sold out. Well, that is unfortunate. And so I lost all my motivation. Just kidding, of course this wouldn't destroy my motivation. I could just sign up for the next one. This would actually also give me a lot more time to train, which, let's be honest, is probably a good thing. So now instead of October 2024, it would be April 2025. But of course I cannot run the marathon in my hotel slippers, so I went out and bought some new gear. Do I look cool? Feel free to lie. Breaking news just in, someone in Marten's family happened to have a spare ticket for October, which means that in a miraculous twist of fate, he is able to participate in that marathon. However, there's one problem. The marathon is in 4 months and Marten has yet to go on a single run. How will this story unfold? Only time will tell. And so I had to start running instantly. So I'm clearly very short on time, but luckily my cousin sent me a training schedule to follow for the next 3 months that he probably got somewhere off the internet. Hello, can you like move? You're in the way. Fine. People these days. It's time for the first run. It's way too cold. Okay, now I'm ready. Woo! That was pretty okay.
We did it.
And as you maybe noticed in the schedule, I would have to start running longer distances quite fast. I just did my first 10-kilometer run while sick. It actually went quite well. So for the first run, I ran 4.13 kilometers in about 26 minutes. To a lot of people, this might not sound impressive at all, but to me, pretty good. I haven't ran in years, so I expected much worse. Something I clearly do have to work on though is maintaining my pace, because I had to stop multiple times during the run, which is a bit embarrassing. The 10-kilometer run took about an hour, and honestly, I'm also quite happy with that. I'm the best. No, I'm not. This guy is the best. But hey, in my mind, I'm doing pretty good. But for the marathon, there's clearly a lot more work to be done. But then, in the 3rd week, disaster struck. Okay, that might be a bit dramatic. I sustained a small ankle injury when I was running 16 kilometers, so I couldn't run for 2 weeks. I think my body was just not used to running long distances like that, so this overworking caused my ankle to go on strike. It also didn't help the recovery that immediately afterwards I went on holiday to Lisbon.
I don't know how much you know about Lisbon, but it might not be the best location to recover from an ankle injury.
Time to go on my first run in 2 weeks. Well, that was not great. I think my injury was not fully recovered yet, so it actually started hurting a lot again. Other than that, I had to pause loads because I guess I'm not as fit as I was 2 weeks ago. I didn't know that it went that fast. And it started absolutely pouring during the run. But yeah, I have a lot of work to do to get back on pace, I guess. Time for a 14-kilometer run. Time for another run. Time for a 22-kilometer run. Time for a 30-kilometer run.
This was the longest run in my training schedule, and because running alone is boring, I of course joined a group of other people. For the first time running such a long distance, it actually went surprisingly well, but of course I still ended up like this. But there was one very clear conclusion from this run. I really needed new shoes. These cheap decathlon shoes were no longer gonna cut it. Almost the entire 30 kilometers, my knees and ankles were hurting, so I really needed the upgrade. After that, I went on another 30-kilometer run, the last super long distance of my training schedule. And it went horrendously. It turns out that running alone for 30 kilometers through empty fields of farmland is quite difficult. And so I was very happy that my cousin also wanted to run the marathon because it meant that I wouldn't be running alone.
Hey Martin, I don't think I can run the marathon anymore. I'm getting a bit old and fragile. Bruh. But it's fine. To make it up to me, he gave me his old Fitbit, which is super nice. Too bad that it's a bit too big for my wrists. As a last minute addition to my gear, I also bought this belt which could carry my water bottle. I accidentally got the XL version though, which is a bit unfortunate since I'm slightly smaller than extra large.
Only 10 days left until the marathon, and I really don't know if I'm ready. 9 more days until the marathon. 8 more days until the marathon. 7 more days until the marathon. 6 more days until the marathon. 5 more days until the marathon. 4 days. 3 more days until the marathon. 2 more days until the marathon. 1 more day until the marathon. Okay, I'm now at the marathon location, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm quite nervous. Like really quite nervous. But we have to pull through, and it will be fine. But let's go.
And then it finally started.
So we're underway here in 2024.
Well, obviously I was not at the front with the pros. I was somewhere back here. And to catch up, I started my race full power, full velocity.
No, of course not. I'm not stupid. I took it very slowly. I actually just decided to follow someone with the flag the entire time. In general, the running at the beginning went fine, but I already noticed very early on that I would have one major thing holding me back the entire marathon. The bathroom. You see, it's a generally known fact among my friends, and now the internet, that my bladder is weak AF. And for some reason, my dumb brain thought it was a genius plan to drink tons of hydration drinks the morning before the marathon. Like, it was so bad that 5 minutes before I started running, I went to the bathroom, and then after 20 minutes, my bladder started acting up again. Also, without going into too much detail, if you plan on running the marathon with these gels, I would strongly recommend you to train with them so you can test them out and have your body get used to them. I did not do that like a true fool, so I apparently perished around 30 kilometers. But let's focus on the running. Stamina-wise, the entire marathon there was absolutely no problem, and for the most part, my legs were actually also fine. Until I hit 34 kilometers. Suddenly, my body was not the only thing racing. My mind started working overtime. Thoughts like, I never should have done this. Why am I even making this video? I just want to lay down in a bush. All started emerging in my mind. Was this the end for me? No. There was no way I was gonna stop running. Deep down, I still knew that I wanted to finish this marathon more than anything. It was only 8 kilometers left, a distance I ran so often during my training. And so, I slowly powered through. Those were some of the longest kilometers of my life. Every 10 meters felt like I was doing a 100-meter sprint. Every 10 minutes felt like an hour. Until I reached the last 3 kilometers. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was the crowd that was still there after all that time. Maybe it was the idea that the finish was so nearby. But all that exhaustion that had accumulated over time suddenly vanished into thin air. I no longer felt like I could collapse any second. I no longer felt like I was running with a backpack full of bricks. All I could feel was pure and honest joy. I must have looked like an absolute psychopath those last kilometers. I decided to put the same song on loop, and while everyone was struggling from exhaustion, I started speeding up more and more, passing person after person while dancing to the song with the biggest smile ever on my face. Then at the final stretch, knowing that I would be cheered on by my family and friends, I pushed out the most epic final sprint ever, pushing out every little bit of energy I had left in my body to cross that finish line. It was so epic and unexpected that out of the 6 people cheering me on at the finish, not a single one saw it. But luckily there's at least some footage. Okay, it looked a lot more epic in my mind. But to be fair, I did run 42 kilometers before that. It's actually quite funny to look back at the footage because my mom started recording the finish line for more than 5 minutes, 20 seconds after I finished. I ended up finishing after 4 hours and 51 minutes. Now this is not very fast, I know, but going fast was not my goal at all. I mostly just wanted to make sure that I reached the finish line and that I wouldn't collapse halfway through. And while it's definitely not the fastest time, I'm still very proud of myself. I am proud that a couple months before I randomly decided that I wanted to run a marathon for a video, started training in quite a disciplined way, and actually reached my goal. I set a goal and achieved it. And to be honest, that feels pretty great.
In general, I think this was a very nice experience. Even though the training was sometimes long and boring, and even during the race I was thinking that I would never do this again, when I crossed that finish line, it all truly felt worth it. So would I do it again? Probably, yes. Or maybe I'll try a triathlon or something.
Yeah, let's go!
Did someone see my epic sprint at the end?